Hey everyone, Dr. James Surratt here. Today I'm going to be talking about men's health and giving you the 3 keys to losing weight on semaglutide as a man. Ladies out there, if you're like, oh, next video, this could be for your husband, a son, a loved one, an uncle. I have literally seen hundreds of guys, had hundreds of dudes on ozempic, semaglutide, GLP1 therapies, and I have seen 3 factors that influence their success. And these 3 tips are absolute. They must be met in order, and I tell patients right off the bat, we have to do these 3 things in order to get you the results that you want, to get you off of the medication long term. So I'm a naturopathic doctor. My goal for all patients is to get them off all medications and not be reliant on them going into the future. Let's jump into the 3-step plan that I would implement with a new man coming into the practice. So step number 1 has to do with insulin resistance, right? Everyone that comes to see me has insulin resistance, but it must be checked for. We need to know what we're dealing with. We need to know where somebody's fasting insulin is. We need to know what their hemoglobin A1C is, which is a 3-month blood sugar, and just a snapshot blood sugar. Those are the few things that we'll check initially to gauge somebody's level of insulin resistance. We also check a whole host of other metabolic markers just to see what somebody's overall cardiovascular risk is and really just see how bad things are. Once we have that, we know where we're starting, and then we can get a gauge of where we're headed. We can implement semaglutide, which the whole goal of the medication is just to stimulate those insulin receptors enough to where insulin production decreases, blood sugar starts to come under control, and it makes it easier for you metabolically, gears the system towards losing weight. Now, there's also other advantages in that it helps turn the food noise down a little bit, helps with alcohol control, carb control, and just eating a little bit less calories, doing the things that you know are going to work well for you, and regaining that element of self-control. But mastering this insulin resistance is key, which is why I love semaglutide. If you look at the box of Wegovy, semaglutide, Ozempic, wherever you purchase it from, brand name, doctors are prescribing this medication. They're starting off around 0.25 milligrams, which is reasonably low, but they're bumping you up really quickly. 0.5 milligrams, 1 milligram, 2 milligrams, every couple of weeks. The crazy thing is that most men, specifically men and women, but really men do not need to be pumped full of 2 milligrams full of Wegovy or semaglutide. This is the common pitfall. Now, what does it do to somebody when you give them that much of the peptide? Well, it makes their cells, those receptors, dependent on the overstimulation, stimulating. And then what happens? Somebody loses weight, they get results, or they get really bad side effects. But let's say you make it through the side effects, you lose a bunch of weight, and somebody pulls you off the medication. Well, yeah, of course you're going to get whiplash weight gain because all of your cravings are going to come crashing back. Those receptors are no longer going to be stimulated. It's going to crash down. You didn't really take care of the main part of the problem, which was the insulin resistance. Let's look on the flip side of that, and this is what we do with our clients. Why don't we look at it from the angle where we just give somebody just enough that they need, just those receptors, just enough to where they're regaining control of their cravings. They're starting to lose weight. They're starting to gain momentum. They're starting to feel good again. Energy's coming back. Like, I got this. And when they do hit their weight loss goal, we titrate them off slowly. And so that way you don't have that massive weight whiplash that everybody talks about online. And you also aren't going to have this massive side effect profile, like just terrible nausea, hair falling out, constipation. Like, you don't need to have all these things when you're on semaglutide. It doesn't have to be like that. But the next 2 steps are crucial when it comes to you coming off the medication and not being reliant on semaglutide anymore. We have to gear the body to be able to accomplish this. And there's 2 separate ways. So the next step is going to be hormone health. As a guy, there's really 2 hormones that we have to be paying the utmost attention to, and that's testosterone and estrogen. As guys, as we get older, if your testosterone levels, not just your total testosterone, but your free testosterone levels take a dive, then you're not going to be healing as well. You're going to be more prone to putting on fat. The body will start to muscle waste. So when you go onto a therapy like semaglutide with really low testosterone, you're going to make it more likely for you to be losing muscle mass along the way, along with your fat, which isn't cool. We don't want to do that. especially in guys that are 50, 60 plus years old. You don't want to lose that muscle because it's harder to regain it later on in life. So we need a really good solution for testosterone or low testosterone levels. It could include supplements, it could include herbs, enclomiphene, peptide therapies, or testosterone replacement therapy, all really dependent on where you are within your health journey, whether you want kids or not. If you really want to actively be having kids right now, I would not recommend going on testosterone therapy because that's likely going to reduce the likelihood of that happening. But there are other therapies that can boost testosterone along the way. Number 2 within this, the second hormone is going to be estrogen. A lot of times in those specifically that have insulin resistance and an excess of adipose tissue or fat, that conversion from testosterone to estrogen happens rapidly within those fat cells. And it's called the aromatization of testosterone, where testosterone becomes estrogen is going to be more prevalent. So the less weight you have on you, the less fat you have on you, the less that is going to occur. But we need to be able to check these things out the gates. Like we have to check, where is your estrogen, where's your testosterone, where are all these hormones at? If we see you at a massive deficit and estrogen's off the charts high and testosterone's super low, just putting you on semaglutide is not necessarily going to be, like, it might help, but you're not going to be as well balanced. It's not going to be as sustainable going forward. So a different approach would be simultaneously adjusting the testosterone, helping your body clear the estrogen or get rid of the estrogen, adapting strategies to reduce estrogen within your system. And that way the semaglutide will be more effective. You'll be able to lose the weight faster and keep it off long term because that estrogen will no longer be super high and the testosterone super low. If there was one thing for a man other than semaglutide for weight loss that I would say, please pay attention to this is the number one thing. Find a doctor that actually knows what they're doing, and they're not just going to tell you that they can't check it or just throw a therapy at you and not recheck it, because these are things that must be monitored. Even if you go modest, even if you go conservative and you just do supplements, you just do herbs, like, remember that these therapies, if you do them right, they will have an impact on your system. You have to recheck these levels as you go to know that it's working. And number 3, the third part of our 3-step plan is we have to control for inflammation. So obviously when we do initial blood work, we check for inflammation, things like eosinophil sedimentation rate, or for short a SED rate. That will tell you what your head to toe inflammation is, if there's any concern for autoimmune disease or many different autoimmune diseases. We check for different autoimmune diseases, HSCRP, so C-reactive protein to look for cardiovascular risk, but also another marker for inflammation. We check PSA for prostate, which is prostate inflammation. It's another marker. There's just a lot of different things that we want to take a look at initially to gauge how inflamed you are. So again, we know exactly from the get-go what therapies to deploy, what supplements, what peptide therapies, what happens when we start eating healthier, when we start trying to reduce inflammation, improve your digestion. We want to be able to know where you started along with your symptoms and watch those numbers drop, come back into alignment, along with you feeling better as well. We want to see you look healthier on paper, but also be feeling better too. Just imagine this. You lose all this weight, but you're super inflamed still. Your gut's out of whack. You got flora imbalance, just good bacteria, bad bacteria out of whack. You're still getting heartburn. You're still having digestive issues. Maybe the diet's not on point. You're not eating things that are right for you, your body, and your genetics. You're just eating a quote-unquote healthy diet, which doesn't exist. Obviously, there are things that we know are healthier, but that doesn't mean that you personally are digesting them well. So what do? We make a game plan based on your blood work and what you're experiencing to calm the inflammation down. We watch it as we're doing lab work at regular intervals to watch that inflammation calm. And that way, when you do come off semaglutide, you do hit your weight loss goal, you're not just going to puff back up again full of water weight, which is just that inflammatory weight. When you're able to tackle insulin resistance, balance hormones, and reduce inflammation, that is the magic. That is the equation for a man or a woman, but specifically right now talking about men, because this is an underserved population. Like, only 20% of semaglutide or GLP1 users are men, meaning that guys are not really seeking out this therapy. And in my experience, guys have faster results than women. We're able, like, just the way that our bodies and our metabolisms come back online, it's usually faster than women. Not in every case, but guys should know this. There is an expedited path to health, and this is the paradigm. This is the way that you want to be looking at it going forward. So if this is of any interest to you, we are taking new clients. There's an application down below. Happy to work with you or chat with you and see if working together would be a good fit. Otherwise, if you're feeling like you're getting some value out of this, please follow for more, like us, comment. The comments help us a great deal, push things forward. If you love it, if you hate it, leave a comment. And until next time, guys, I'll see you next week. Take care.